What's up, everybody? I just wanted to lead off this video, just kind of let y'all know I screwed up whenever I was initially recording these clips. I had the camera turned sideways, so I went into the editor, turned them back around the other way. But the formatting looks like it's going to be a little bit weird, so it'll probably be more like kind of an upright look. But a little sneak preview of what's to come in the video. This is the finished result on the spray can Miata paint job. Still a little bit of extra work to do. I'm still going to do a cut and buff on the paint. As well, I've got some white vinyl to do stripes with to really kind of bring this whole design together, hopefully. But yeah, just want to give that little heads up. I'm probably going to also bring out a video of kind of just going through, doing all of the sanding, and then the final result. Because the end of this video is just going to have it to where the car's painted and in clear. But it's not going to have where it gets polished. I'm probably going to do that into another video. But yeah, so this is... Just keep kicking the jack stand there, but this is what you're going to see in the video. Thank you. Alright. Welcome to the paint booth. This is my 1992 Mazda Miata, which I have spent way too much time working on. I spent a good part of the winter and early spring repairing quarter panel rust, which these cars are pretty well known for. They rust out right down in here, the outer skin, and into the door skin, and also up the wheel arches. On this side, I replaced from about here down. And then over on the driver's side, I replaced much more of this side as far as the outer skin. It's pretty well from about here across and down. As well, I had to replace the door sills down here, and also some of the inner fender well up here. There were a few small patches that I had to make. I'm going to do one more white down. As you can see, the whole car is in primer. I've already wet sanded to 800 grit. I've got my finish panel over here and the bumper over here. I took them off because this was broken. I actually replaced it with, I ordered another part from an individual on Facebook Marketplace, and it came in broken, but I fixed it to about 95%. Hopefully it looks like whenever it gets put into paint. And then on the bumper, I did the notorious in a Miata bumper cut. Some people do this to fit a dual exhaust and kind of show off the muffler a bit. I did it because it's known as a parachute amongst Miata enthusiasts, and a lot of actually drivers pull the bumper off because it can create a lot of drag. It's not the most aggressive bumper cut in the world. It's not the most subtle, but I think it'll give me a nice little reduction in the parachute effect, because I did drive this vehicle once without the bumper on, and above 80 miles an hour you can definitely feel the difference in total drag, even with 100 horsepower stock 4-cylinder Miata. The goal of this paint job, and I'm going to show results with it as well, is to actually paint this car with spray cans. I spent the money on a decent spray paint as far as the paint color itself. It's going to be Audi Nardo Gray, the color I chose to go with for the rear section of the car. The front half is still red and staying red. But then I do have a 2-component clear coat, again in a can, to cover the car up with and finish it off. We'll see how it goes. Looking back at the whole project, I wish I would have just sprung for an air compressor and paint gun, but I don't have that. I should have bought it, and I didn't. Let me just put my wax and grease remover cap back on. But ultimately, I do wish that I would have gone ahead and purchased those, but at the time I was spending a lot of money, and I really didn't feel like splurging on the extra several $100s to get a paint gun set up. Like I said, looking back, I definitely wish I would have. but hopefully the results I get are the majority of the results I would have gotten with a paint gun, and be happy with it for at least a little while before I choose to either do the whole car or sell it on, um, whichever it ends up being. But that is kind of the before of this vehicle. Having put it on primer, I might see if I can throw some pictures up of the process of me repairing the rust. They're not the greatest welds in the world, as this was my first time welding on a vehicle. But we'll see. And then I'll also have the after pictures so we can see if it truly is, never worth doing spray cans, or if it's, a feasible option for somebody who just really doesn't want to go to a compressor. But I think ultimately I'm going to go get a compressor after this for any jobs I do forward from this point. But yeah, because it's going to be a nice little line down the side of the doors. I also got some of the door hinges and actually taped it off down in the corner. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that. But to kind of, make it look like somebody cared to some degree when they did this paint job. And it's not going to be perfect, I know that already, just because this bumper was literally repainted 4 times. Because it is shot. I mean, there's a few small sections you can see cracking right there on this corner, and then this big one arose literally just as I was building this jig to hold it up here for paint. Got that nice little crack right there. So it's not going to be perfect, but I can redo the bumper at some point, or I can figure something else out. This is never going to be a show car. This thing had a pretty hard life before it got to me. And I've been slowly working my way into fixing it and making it something I'm happy to drive, but it still needs a lot. There's things like, I think it needs the steering rack rebuilt, it needs all the front bushings done, rear bushings wouldn't hurt anything. I resprayed the floor in the vehicle because it was rusty too, but yeah, this thing's gone through a lot, and it'll go through more, but hopefully more repairs than issues. But that's where I'm going to cut this here for the before, and then we'll see what the after looks like. Alright, well, I guess this is going to open up the question of if you should ever consider doing a spray paint job. This is the result of just the base coat on my 92 Miata that I'm doing a partial respray on. I was planning on doing base coat and clear coat at the same time while I was doing the paint job, but the paint didn't come out well enough that I wanted to do that. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to be sanding this all back a little bit, seeing if I can make a more uniform look on the paint, and then go forward with the clear coat. This did not come out anywhere close to where I was hoping it would come out to be. I don't think there's too much striping really to kind of go over, but there is definitely something. It'll probably get worse once it's out in the actual daylight and not just under the lights of the garage. You can kind of see little where the lines are running this way and little specks. I don't know if you guys can see it on the camera, somewhere about there. Because I used 2 different kinds of spray cans on this paint job. This is the one, I just got these just filled up at O'Reilly's, just as a color match to the car, or the color that I want to paint this. These cans were absolute trash. They didn't atomize the paint hardly at all. It was kind of just like using, almost like the jet function on a hose. Whereas the cans that worked out really well initially, I only had 2 of these cans with these U-Pole cans. And these were great. These sprayed really nicely. They had good atomization. They leveled out well. And it was going to be it looked like it would have been a more promising result than what I got with that one. Because I led off with the 2 U-Pole cans, and then finished off with these fill ones, and these were absolute trash. They didn't have any consistent tinting between them, it looked like. I don't know if you can really see it too well on here. The point where it's probably going to be the most obvious on this paint job is up here towards the top, between these panels, because right here it's all one color, and then up here it's another color, because that's where there were two different cans I was using there. You can kind of see right here where there's a little bit of a discrepancy between this color and this color. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit worse actually back here. You can kind of see it a bit better, hopefully, where it's a bit darker there and a little bit lighter here. So we're going to see if this is salvageable. What I'm going to be doing is just cutting it back with some fine grit sandpaper. I'm going to start off with 1,000, and then from there probably hit it with 2,000 and see if it's either looks really blotchy or if it, all stays pretty consistent as far as the color on it. If it's pretty consistent, I'll just smooth it out as much as I can and hopefully try to knock out those little spots where it looks like paint, just like a drip of paint hit it. It didn't run it anywhere, it just had drips, although it looks kind of, I don't know, there might be something right there, but it feels fine. It doesn't feel like it's not level, but it kind of looks a little bit odd, but I don't know. Maybe I can fix that. Maybe I can't. I don't know. If it turns out really blotchy and looks like absolute crap, who knows? I don't really know what I'll do yet, but I'll do something before I clear it. Maybe I'll find somebody who feels like spray painting the back half of the car, or not spray painting, but like graffitiing it, doing something like that. I don't know, but ultimately this rear bumper needs to go. In all actuality, it just needs to get replaced and repainted and something nice, because you can maybe see the little variance in texture there. Like, you can kind of see a spot. Like I said, there were 5 layers of paint in this bumper, and I had to sand through it where there were cracks and where it was just not looking great. And I've got this one spot up here against the light. You can see it where it's still cracked through the paint again, even with the new stuff on it. But I knew the bumper wasn't ever going to be perfect, so that I didn't feel bad attempting a bumper cut on it. Just to get some practice for if I ever pick up a nice bumper and repaint that. And at this point, I'd probably be redoing the whole car, or at least kind of the same thing, just maybe moving the paint line a little bit further forward, so that way I can kind of get rid of all this and start fresh and hopefully get a little bit better results. But we're going to see. I'm going to start off with just trying to wet sand it. I'm probably going to start down here on these lower door sills, because this is going to get like kind of that black stripe you see on first gen Miatas, just like some black rock guard, something like that. So I'll try sanding it down here first, kind of see what the results might look like, and then I'll probably move on to the rest of the car, just because I'm not quite sure how it's going to look. But I might as well start in something that's going to get covered up anyway, and then work my way out from there and try to salvage this and see if it's possible. So I'm gonna get to it, and we're gonna see if I can make this turd shine. So let's see. All right, everybody. This is the final result of my spray can paint job. After the last results were uninspiring to unattractive, to say the least, sanded everything back with 800 grit, wet sanded everything back, tried to get a nice level surface to go back over, try to get kind of the gummy texture that it had off, and get it ready to spray again. I did discover what the issue was with the first time, as to why it came out looking really like kind of glossy, kind of wet. With the last paint that I used, I discovered, or I found out, however you want to look at it, the paint I'd used was a base coat for the first 2 cans that sprayed really nicely the initial time I painted this. This last 4 were, I think, like a lacquer paint. It was like a single stage almost. So where it actually was basically like a finished product. So that's why it had all that shine to it whenever you would see it in person. And that's also why I didn't spray very well, because it was a really heavy paint. Whereas this time, after I sanded all that back, I didn't sand it all the way back down to primer. I tried to keep it very gray because I went and I bought 4 more cans of color. I believe you can see my mess of cans that I had here from when I painted. These were the new ones. They were U-Poles again. These are the ones that sprayed really nicely. I'm missing the cap on it, but these are the ones that sprayed really well. So I laid that on here about 10-15-ish minutes between coats, as well as just kind of walking around, the car. Parts would dry off before other parts would be wet, and kind of going in a bit of a process of trying to manage which spots I was hitting at which times. I had 4 cans, basically got 4 new layers of base coat on here. And then while that was still kind of a little bit tacky, I started putting on clear coat. As you can see from the pile that I've got just sitting right over there, I had 12 cans of clear, and I used those across everything. I tried to hit the areas that I knew were going to be exposed more, kind of take more of a beating, a little bit heavier, like up here on the top. I tried to make sure that I had a little bit more paint, or a little bit more clear coat to it, because it is a spray can. Ultimately I'm not going to have as much coverage as if I mixed up my own paint, my own clear and everything, used a spray gun. So I wanted to hit these a little bit harder, leave a little bit more of a protective layer to keep everything looking nice. And honestly, I'm going to grab the LED light to take kind of a look at it. The trunk is probably the worst spot on this. At least it was while I was painting it. You can see a lot of tiger striping in it, and there's a little bit of it across the whole car. But now that it's a little bit drier, honestly, I don't even see it as much. I think I've still got you guys in focus. I don't see as much of it as I did whenever I was painting it. So my results, I think, may have gotten a little bit better with a little bit of time. Because what I did today, I finished up spraying this, and then I was going to a Cars and Coffee. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to basically get all of it on here, go to Cars and Coffee, and kind of come back and see what the results are. And it's gotten better, ultimately. There were a few spots that I could have done a little bit better on, where I just had a little bit of a lapse, like right over here. I don't know if I can get a good angle for you to see it, but there is a little bit of a run into clear right there. And then I got another one right there. But I mean, those are really the only runs I got in it. There are little spots throughout the car where there's just crap in the paint, because I'm doing it in a barn, basically. But I attempted to have like a little ventilation system over there, the fan running, to keep overspray and dust to a minimum. But honestly, I'm really surprised. This came out a lot better than I left it whenever I started, and I'm actually now seeing all the kind of little spots I missed when I was doing body work. Like there's a couple little marks right there you might be able to kind of see, but I'm really happy with this. This might actually be a lot better than I was expecting. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to peel back the masking, because I'm going to cover up the paint edges with some vinyl, because I know they're not going to be perfect, especially down here along the body lines. I know it's just not going to be quite as tight a line as I would really like it to be if I were going to just leave it as gray and it's red underneath. Wow, I'm really kind of excited for this now. I'm going to let it dry up really well. I mean, there's a lot of little things out here, but I'm hoping I can buff that out. But really, holy crap. I mean, I could honestly almost live with this as it sits right now. Oh, there's a run right there. I didn't see that earlier. But that's kind of getting covered up. You're probably going to actually see that one. But you know what? This is a spray can paint job. It was never going to be perfect. But honestly, whenever I was spraying this, I was thinking this thing was going to be like a 50% out of 100. You know, still kind of an F, depending on who you are and how you measure yourself. Probably just got a good look at my fucking beard there. But this is actually looking a lot better than I was expecting it to be. So I'm really excited for this. Really, I might pay somebody to buff this, because if this is the results with no buffing, I might just pay somebody who knows what they're doing as opposed to me trying it to be complete. Now, see, I don't have a polisher. I was thinking about just going to wet sand the whole thing and hand buff it, but there's enough surface area here, and this is looking good enough that I might just spend the money and have somebody else do this for me. So if the results look this good, and especially when I get out in the sun, look this good, I mean, shoot. I'm probably still not going to do any more spray can paint jobs, simply because this is a lot of not unnecessary prep work, but there's a lot of variables, and there's a lot of shit that can go wrong with doing it with spray cans. So I'm probably still going to go ahead and do, like, eventually get like a spray gun, a compressor, and everything, because I could also use that for air tools. Not that air tools are as critical as they used to be for with modern equipment, but you can still see a little bit. The trunk's really the only spot where there's like some tiger striping, recognizable. But man, I am excited for this. I am really excited. I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to go ahead, unmask the car, and kind of go over my work and let this dry up for. I'm probably going to leave it for a week, honestly, before I even touch this thing with any kind of sandpaper. But honestly, what I'm probably going to do, because I have some nice wheels and tires for this thing, I'm probably going to go ahead and grab a white pen and put some tire letters on it, because that's the one thing I've been wanting to do with this car since I got the sticky wheels and tires I have. And hopefully, with the way this looks, I can pull it off a bit better than just having a stock Miata. So, I'm excited. But yeah, I'm going to cut it here, and I'm going to get to unmasking. Okay, this is the finished paint result. This isn't 100% done yet. A couple things I still need to do. I'm currently holding an LED light because the garage door is shut, because the dog is outside and the paint is still soft. Don't really want him brushing into this and screwing anything else up, or screwing anything up. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. As you can see, I've got one of my wheels on just for kind of a color mock-up, so I can get an idea for how everything looks, in its finished state. Still a few things that need to happen. What I still need to do, I'll set this light down. So along here, along the paint line, obviously, what I'm planning on doing is getting some white vinyl, like vinyl, just peel and stick vinyl, running that along this right here, kind of to transition between the two of them, and let me see, yeah, kind of smooth out the paint edge, the hard line I've got right there from where I masked it off. And then also over here in the dark, I'm gonna get some white, use that same vinyl to run stripes, kind of, if I can write that into the dust, something kind of along those lines, literally, in the white as well, to kind of, make everything, at least in my mind, pretty cohesive. I don't know how much of this is in focus, but this paint came out awesome. Relative for it being spray cans and spray clear, I'm really satisfied with this. I'm going to probably pay somebody to buff it, just because I don't really trust myself to do a good enough job to, to really round out this long process it's been for me to get this car done. But yeah, I'm super satisfied. I mean, right here, let's see if I can kind of maybe mimic kind of use the LED as kind of a guide, but you really, I mean, it's hard. You'd be hard pressed to know exactly where I cut to, replace this quarter, because all this was gone. It was all just rusted away. But yeah, that looks really solid. And then obviously got the bumper right here. It's looking pretty good, pretty glossy. These are pretty rough right here, but this is going to get painted this is going to get a black stripe right here to mimic, or well, to match the original black stripe that runs along the bottom of these cars, which it's going to get along the bottom here too, to really finish it off and kind of, because whenever you take that line off on these cars, visually it kind of makes it look kind of fat in the middle. That really helps to break it up a little bit. I mean, most manufacturers do that with, especially like with new crossovers, because they are so fat in the middle. That's why you'll have like the black body cladding like that, kind of to bring the visually bring the body up a little bit. But I'm gonna do that. It's gonna run onto here, and then just adhere those on, probably with some 3M tape. But yeah, this looks really solid to me. I'm super excited. I mean, on this, I mean, you know, it's not a, you know, the OE fender. It is a patch panel, and then this whole side is basically a patch. Like, it's all the way from here to kind of one of those jingles right there is all patch. But I mean, it really, you know, there's a little bit of waviness around here, but it's not bad. I'm really happy with this personally. And even all the way down here as well. I mean, that was where it was rotten, and then right here on the inner fender was rotten, so it rotted through up here. It was a mess. But I am just stoked on this, honestly. Next things that I'm ordering tonight, one of which is the door seals. They go right here because mine were shot. I think I've got it behind here. Can't really see through the plastic, but they're rusty, and the vinyl plastic cover, whatever it is on the exterior, is peeling up, exposing the rust. And then I've got these lovely mirrors. They're the original, or at least they are original mirrors for the car. You know, non-power mirrors. I mean, they're factory mirrors, but these little clips on both of mine are all screwed up. They don't stay down. No matter what you do, they just pop loose. This one's blue, obviously, and that side is red. It was probably one of the original mirrors to the car. But as you can see, the body work on it is just absolute trash, because this car was resprayed prior to me getting it. Let's get a little more light on here. Oop, right up there. You can see it's pretty well shot. And then if you get to the bottom of it, it's like, it's, you know, not great, but, you know, it's still red like the rest of the car is. I don't know if they just forgot to spray this or what they did, but it just looks like ass. So I'm going to be pulling those off, putting on the Ray Dot mirrors. And you can look up what they look like. They're kind of like bullet style mirrors, but they don't have kind of the, I don't know, the two-piece look. It's like a very one-piece kind of look to it. But these are going to be going away. Those are, I hated those things since I had the car. Get new seals on here. Obviously I need to throw the seats and everything back in here. And what I also did, not at the same time as doing the spray on the outside of the car, but this I did earlier this year, kind of during early spring. I did some patchwork inside here as far as the metal. There was a few little rust holes and just surface rust all over it. So what I wanted to do was just scuff it all down, rust converter all over it, just make it a nice surface, and then primed it, painted it. Kind of tried to go with the gray to something, and this is just like a cheap Rust-Oleum gray, no clear coat or anything on it. Just something I could touch up easy over time if, you know, as feet run across it and wear it out if it does. But I kind of went up to where hopefully it's covered up by the center console, or the interior trim covers it up, so you shouldn't see, as long as all my guesswork measurements were correct, you shouldn't see any of the original red inside here whenever, you know, all the seats and everything are back in. You can see I didn't have the proper tools whenever I did my roll bar. I mean, I had the right tools to install the roll bar, but I didn't have a angle grinder or anything, so I was forced to use a pair of tin snips to cut through the parcel shelf to get the actual bar in. Cut a bit more than I needed to. I think I could have probably gotten away to just cutting about here, but I had never installed a roll bar in one of these before, so I was kind of flying blind in that respect. But that's all in. That's eventually going to come back out, because I want to replace the seat belts in here with something a little bit newer, because these are the original belts of the car, and they are just old and dilapidated, and I don't feel safe with them. But running NB2 surfboard seats that come to about here on the interior, One would go to NB seat belts just because they're newer and they don't have that stupid stitch you can kind of see right there where if you're in an accident that rips and then you slide forward into the steering wheel. But yeah, overall on the paint job, I mean, this was just done today, so it still needs to fully cure up and fully and get, like I said, get buffed. The spot I'm most curious about is on the trunk, just because the base coat didn't really ever, it didn't like spraying on flat surfaces. It wanted to kind of get a little bit wispy and didn't work out that great. You can see a few little imperfections there, but I think that can get buffed out. So I'm curious to see if this one has kind of that tiger stripe look to it. It looked really, it had a lot of striping on it when I was just first putting the clear on. You can kind of see it through here, maybe, but ultimately, I'm not going to get too beat up over it. I'm just going to kind of enjoy it because now it's, all the rust is fixed. It's got paint on it. It's protected. I'm planning down the line with this car. If I still got it by the time I get around to it, I'm going to repaint the whole thing with the right stuff. Air compressor, gun, and the proper paints and everything, as opposed to doing spray cans. But I mean, honestly, for this being a spray can job, assuming the results are the same after I get it buffed and it's fully cured up and everything, out of 10, under the lights of the garage, out of 10, I would say this is probably like, beating myself up, I'm gonna say it's about a 6. But honestly, for the materials I had and the experience level that I've got, I'm gonna call this about like an 8. Somebody who's done more spray can paint jobs than me, or has done any prior to that, and did a little bit more prep work. I mean, there's a few things I could have probably still knocked out with a little bit more work. Like there's a little tiny spot where there's a little depression somewhere in here where there was a hole that I filled in. They could probably get done a little better job and you get a little bit better results, a little bit here, a little bit there. But at some point, it's like, if you're doing spray cans, you don't really want to invest, or clearly you don't want to invest all the time and money into doing it the, correct way. So in that respect, I'd say this is probably about an 8 out of 10. But, in the grand scheme of paint jobs, this is probably like a 6. I'd say it's a little bit better than average. But I don't think it's, compared to somebody doing a full respray or doing the same thing in an actual paint booth with the right tools, right equipment, right prep work, and practice beforehand, or just experience in general, and this is probably like a 6. But ultimately, I'm really happy with the way this looks right now, and I'm hoping it still looks as good on the, in the finished product. But ultimately, it's not going to change from here too much exterior-wise, aside from just getting the, like I mentioned, the white stripes going down there across the front fenders, the black stripe along the bottom, which will get run onto these little quarter flares, and without the quarter flares and like stock wheels back here, it would look okay. You'd have the same offset as a standard Miata, a little bit of inward tuck, but with the wheels I like to run, which are these RPF ones right here, they got a little bit more aggressive offset. Aggressive, given that it's a Miata, you're not going to get too much out of it. Doesn't rub the fenders or anything, but down here you get a lot of poke out on the sides. So those quarter flares I really like. They just kind of bring it out and they kind of run up flush to where the wheel starts out front. So I'm really happy with those. That's the only thing on this car. I got this car, it had like eBay side skirts, it had those quarter flares, it had eBay rear lip, it still has eBay, I don't know if you can really see it, but there's an eBay GV replica front lip. It had a duckbill on it. I mean, it was really the Amazon eBay, Hot Boy special. It had big old zero offset 15x8 wheels on it, kind of like a TE37 replica, very, very much a replica. Those things were heavy, and they drove like a steamroller on these things. I got no power steering in this one. So did the power steering delete, but it just drove like garbage. Stock wheels feel incredible, just because it's super light, super tossable. The RPF ones feel pretty good, not quite as light. But I mean, I don't know. I could probably go into that more on a different video. But this one's pretty well just about the paint, and ultimately, I'm pretty satisfied. And it's gonna. God, I'm really hoping this just gets even better with a little bit of time, and a little bit of massaging from somebody who knows what they're doing with the buffer. But yeah, so I think that's kind of where I'm gonna wrap this up. For this, probably for this video, I don't know, maybe I'll add another little clip in with the finished product, but I might ultimately put that in another video, just so there's something out there kind of going over the whole thing, kind of as far as a rattle can paint job. I don't know, maybe I'll go a little bit more in depth as far as what exactly the process was I took with doing this. It was kind of a little bit all over the place at times, but you know what, I'm happy with the result. So with that, thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys watching. Looking at me attempt to put together a car and make it look good and try to make something out of it. It's a car that otherwise would have just been pitched because it was rusty and had other issues. I mean, the rear calipers, I replaced all those. Did the water pump, timing belt. I've done a fair bit to this thing, trying to kind of make it nice and freshen it up. Because this is my project car. This is the car I bought as a project to learn to do stuff on, and ultimately that's what I'm still doing, just learning on it. So I've got this as the main project, my Tahoe as the secondary project / backup daily, and the Subaru as primary daily, not project, but we'll still probably get mods. So hopefully a lot of cool stuff coming on all three of the cars, and yeah, so thank you for watching. Take it easy.